Hey there, Cheesemeisters, and welcome back to the Peach Pod After Dark. I am Jeff. During this fight, I've seen a lot of changing in the way you feel about me and in the way I feel about you. In here, there were two guys killing each other, but I guess that's better than 20 million. I guess what I'm trying to say is if I can change and you can change, everybody can change. And joining me on the other end of the internet is my host.
You kill me every time. This is why I'm not a professional actor. I'm Leslie, and I must break you.
Go for it. Yeah. See, you're feeling it.
What the fuck?
Uh-huh.
He's not real. He's not real.
He's even more real than you imagine. Dolph
He is a Winter Soldier. He's a robot. That's why his wife doesn't touch him.
Well, I mean, yeah, the Brigitte Nielsen of it is quite something. All right. This week, in case you haven't figured it out, I mean, my monologue alone should have told you. And if it didn't, and you don't know, I must break you, then I don't know what you've been doing with your life. But this week, we are watching the 1985 Cold War boxing masterpiece, Rocky IV, starring Sylvester Stallone, written and directed by Sylvester Stallone. Carl Weathers, Talia Shire, Burt Young, Dolph Lundgren, Brigitte Nielsen, and all of Russia. And
Russia.
Whether
they wanted to or not.
Yeah, well, the Gorbachev-lookingest actor you've ever seen, who's not Gorbachev, but really was cast because he looks like Gorbachev. Anyway, we're doing this in conjunction with Season 2, Episode 20, A Competitive Edge, because in that episode that you just listened to on Wednesday, everybody's trying to shrink their gonads and shit and do all them steroids so they can track and field better. And obviously, Drago is on the juice. I mean, it was hinted at and then it was shown when he got the injection during one of the many, many montages in this movie.
The super soldier serum.
Yeah. No, I mean, he was Cap before Cap, after Cap, because Cap, from the 40s.
Was in the ice. Cap at this time is in the ice.
In the MCU, I think so, yeah. Not in not in the comics, but whatever. We're getting away from things here.
Yeah.
The spelling connection this week is Carl Weathers, who was in an episode of Starsky and Hutch. All right.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, love Carl Weathers. So, as discussed, you had not ever seen a Rocky movie.
No, I have
not. Just you hadn't seen Rocky IV. You hadn't seen a single Rocky picture.
Nope.
Which is an interesting way to live. It's one I don't understand because I've been watching Rocky movies since I was, 8. I mean, since I was a little kid. I
had the most unique experience.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'm wondering, I'm trying to think how to even ask how to get started because there's two things that I'm curious about. Okay. One, how you like Rocky IV specifically, what it was like watching Rocky IV without having watched the first 3 movies. Like just dropping right in them. Because to be honest, that's probably what I did too.
Okay.
So it's possible the first Rocky movie I saw was Rocky IV, just because of how old I was when it came out. Like it came out in 1985. I was 9. It's quite possible I had seen Rocky III before because that had Mr. T in it and he was in the A-Team and I love the A-Team and all of that stuff. So Rocky III might have been my first, but I didn't start with Rocky I. But I was a kid. So what's it like? What was this like for you? Did you like this movie? Did you feel lost by anything? I feel like that wouldn't be true, but I don't know. Like relationship wise, that kind of thing. How was Rocky IV for you?
It was better than I expected. you've had me watch some movies that I never would have seen otherwise at this point. This was definitely better than Cliffhanger. Um,
Oh God, yes.
but here's the funny thing. So I'll stick with answering your questions. It was better than I thought it was going to be. I wrote down I wrote down, I think within the first 15 minutes, just to have notes for myself to be like, okay, what are they telling me as people who know that there are people like me who might be stepping into this, you know? And I went, Rocky is successful and friends with Apollo. Because those are things
Yep.
I would not have known.
Yep.
I did not know he was friends with Apollo, but all of a sudden they're all chummy, chummy, chummy. And I was like, oh, well, they've come a long way, haven't they? I have now listened to the musical, so I know something of what happens in the first movie.
I don't even know what to do with the fact that that's your frame of reference, but I'm here for it.
I thought it would be. I don't know what I thought it would be for you. I knew you'd feel a way about it, so
I tell you what it is. It's jumping right to EST. It's the Lesliest way to experience Rocky possible.
Yes.
I mean, that's all there is to it. So, okay. Okay, so you understood who they were. You understood who the characters were to start the movie.
I think the only person I still have questions about is I don't understand why Paulie is part of this group at all. He seems like a dead weight. And I mean,
It's Adrian's brother.
What?
Yeah, he's Adrian's brother, which is clear from Rocky 1. Like, they live together. Like, she took care of him because he's a big fucking mess. And, like, I do think the Paulie you miss. Like, you don't get the build up to who Paulie is and the connection there. But I feel like otherwise you probably get everything you need.
Yeah, thankfully for all the montages, because
God, the montages do a lot of work here.
up until the second Russian training montage, which is where we start to see, I think the second one is where we start to see some of like his love story with Adrian play out. Up until that point, I was like, where is it? Like,
oh, yeah, sure.
I mean, on the one hand, and not to jump the gun on intimacy, but on the one hand, they were very clearly people who had been together a long time, you know, like their main
It's almost
focus,
9 years since you married me.
wow. Yeah, their main focus is not their love story anymore. It's like, okay, well, we got to take care of the kid. We have our lives. We have this house. Like, we have a bunch of things that are like, yes, I love you, but you are not, that is not the center of my story right now.
I don't know what I got.
Yeah, exactly.
I might just shout Rocky things at you all episode.
That's fine. Not the worst things that have been shouted at me. Oh man, what was I gonna? Yeah, that's not necessary. I don't know where I was gonna go.
You.
No, it's okay. I can understand you. That was the weird thing. I was gonna make a dig at not being able to understand him, and everyone's made that dig. And you know, all they had to do was hire a vocal coach.
Well, it's not 100% his fault. Like, I guess he was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck, and that's why his mouth is a little like this when he talks and stuff. Yeah, it was a thing that happened when he was born.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, foot, mouth.
No. I mean,
well, and see, I'm not putting it on him.
Yeah.
They needed to hire a dialect coach or a voice coach. Like, I don't know why that's never been a go-to for in older movies, but again, I guess it's kind of like the IC of that time. Like, you know, we'll understand him or we won't. Acting.
Well, I think that, like, for Stallone in particular and Rocky quite specifically, by the time we get to Rocky 4, this is who Stallone is. Like, this is his voice. This is his presentation. Like, and it works Rocky comes out in 76, and he's a palooka. He's a ham and egger. He's just a guy who just fights. He works he breaks thumbs for a loan shark, like that kind of thing. Like that's how he's making a living. And so it makes sense that he's a guy that talks like this because he's not all that smart. He's, like that makes total sense. And he's not going to lose that because that's who Stallone is. That's who Rocky is. Even as the character grows and changes and becomes successful and cut. I mean, just in like if you've ever seen, well, if you watch the montages, early Rocky, he's a doughboy.
A little bit.
Yeah, and by Rocky 3 and then Rocky 4, there's like 2% body fat on that dude. He is lean, but not using steroids. I mean, I guess
I was noting that, and this might be more for what else, although I don't have a ton more to say on it because I'm not a kinesiologist. I'm not a physical trainer, so I don't know all the reasons why certain body shapes are better for certain sports. I can guess, but it is so interesting to me how they are just like, I mean, T shapes, super built and muscly up top, and then just like, I mean, when Drago came out, I was like, I don't know who has skinnier legs, me or you. We might have the same amount of muscles on our legs.
That is weird. I think that I wouldn't assume that what you see there is ideal.
Okay, I didn't think so because I'm used to seeing pictures of Ali and like, the muscles being evened out. I mean, Rocky in this, like you said, he's super cut up top and slightly bigger, but he's still working out his lower half. Like
they skip leg day a lot. But if you look at Mike Tyson from roughly the same time period, 85, 86, that dude is thighs. I mean, he's very strong up top, but his legs were huge. And he got a lot of power from coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to need that. I know you need to be light on your feet and moving around and all of that and like distracting them. But at the same time, like you got to be able to stand your ground.
Right.
And again, going off of what little I know about boxing, like I'm basic Becky. I've done kickboxing classes and I love it. They're too expensive though. But I've never watched anything about boxing. The closest thing I've watched about wrestling, like I almost texted you after this, like I prefer Glow. It's different. This is real.
Wow. I mean,
as it gets.
That's the thing. It's not though, because you don't. So since you also don't know boxing, you don't know how not boxing this is.
What?
Oh yeah, no. In boxing, people try not to get hit.
That makes sense.
In Rocky movies, dudes just wail on each other. Like in boxing, most of the time you see this. You see people's arms up, covering their heads or covering their sides. In Rocky, you see people with their hands down here, just getting punched in the face like 1,500 times. So real boxing has nothing to do with what Rocky is.
Okay.
It's kind of amazing how not real the boxing in this is. And for it to still to be this big of a story and this popular.
Which not necessarily that didn't think I was going to get on this topic, but why I wish more audience members would realize, I mean, myself included just now, because like I totally believed it, but at the same time, like I know that there's still research I would need to do, and I'm not going to go, well, I went on here. Anyway, retracting statements. What I'm trying to say is I wish more audience members wouldn't view things and think that is gospel,
Right, sure.
Like, again, I'm weak to that viewpoint as well, because we can only know so much outside of our lived experience, and with the way storytelling gets more and more truthful, at least you hope it gets more and more truthful, but it also, with that truth, it's probably just becoming more exciting. Like
Yeah.
People know the ways to write to engage an audience anymore. And unfortunately, anymore, you have to do things super duper quick in order to engage that audience, or you're going to lose people.
Yeah.
Um,
This, by the way, storytelling, this is the Pearl Harbor structure that I pitched.
oh,
Right?
yeah, you're right.
The bad thing happens at the beginning, and Rocky 3 is the same way. And then he recovers from the bad thing, goes through the training to defeat the enemy at the end.
Yeah.
It's the same story. I just want Pearl Harbor to be Rocky 4.
Let's talk about the bad thing.
Okay, so how did that land for you?
Oh man,
Because you don't have 10 years of Apollo in your history.
no.
He's a guy you met at the pool throwing tennis balls to his dog, which I'm sure made you endeared to him like immediately.
Of course. Well, it was just so sad. I thought you got me onto this just so I could watch this man die?
Yeah,
What the hell, Jeff?
I know. The number of is this like the third or fourth thing where you were like, he's dead, like midway through the.
Well, right. I forget when it hit me. Pun intended. But because of the way he was just getting so excited, I went, he's going to knock him out in one fell swoop. Like, this is not going to end well. But I didn't think he was going to die. And then they were showing the look on his face and his wife, and I went, oh, no!
Yeah. Yeah.
America, you should be ashamed.
It's rough. Yeah.
Yeah, again, I'm not going to say that I felt anywhere near what you or any other viewer who has committed to this series of movies has felt, but it was not great.
Yeah, but that means it worked.
Yeah.
You know?
Damn it. Stallone got me feeling things.
I think this movie is so it lives in the same brain space. Like, you know how like they hook you up to all the things on your head and look at your brain waves and shit. And when, like, I've heard that knitting fires the same part of the brain as doing math. So you do this kind of activity and it builds up that part of the brain. Rocky 4 fires the same parts of the brain for me that 90210 does. Because it is ridiculous on its face.
Yeah.
But it's about way more than the ridiculous thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes not on purpose, but like I love things that make the ridiculous seem plausible and normal.
Yeah.
And this is the same kind of thing. Because like when you look at this movie, it is Rocky beats communism. Like Rocky takes down the Soviet Union and ends the Cold War in a boxing match. And that is fucking silly. Like that's the sequel problem you have where like the villain has to keep getting bigger and the stakes keep having to get larger. You can't just have Lex Luthor. You have to have Lex Luthor and the 3 people from Krypton. You know, you can't have the Penguin. It has to be the Penguin and the Catwoman and the Riddler and Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze. And like you just have to put them all in the movie. And it bloats things. And so this one doesn't bloat it, but it raises the stakes to such a degree in Cold War America that it feels like you are cheering for the United States over Russia and we're gonna win the Cold War. Eat it, Gorbachev. Right?
And that reminds me, the one thing I forgot to look up was the Cold War. Because more and more, I'm like, you know jack shit about the Cold War.
Yeah.
Like most people, I would bet. But
people who didn't live through it, yeah.
Because the Cold War was just something I thought, like, oh, it's referenced in Bye Bye Birdie. It ends with Bye Bye Birdie. Bye Bye Birdie ends the Cold War because Conrad Birdie doesn't go off to fight.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it went on for like 30 more years.
Jesus.
So, all right. So I think it's important to talk about the Cold War here, but let me come at it this way. Okay. This movie is my kind of patriotism. And it's not because it's we beat communism. Okay? Because it's not. Like Rocky, that's not why Rocky is fighting. Yeah. He doesn't give a shit.
No.
He's not out there representing America. He's wearing the Stars and Stripes trunks, but that's not because of America.
No.
And you don't even know that. Here's what the pants are. They're Apollos. You know that.
The first from the musical.
Okay. Oh, there you go. So Rocky 1, which by the way, I didn't intend to do this, but I watched Rockies 1, 2, and 3 yesterday afternoon. They were on AMC, and they were just on, and I watched them all. You know, I didn't sit down transfixed because I've seen them a million times, but I watched them all. So the story of Rocky 1 is Apollo's the champ. And it is 1976. It's bicentennial time. And his opponent falls out, and he wants to give a chance to an underdog. What's more American than that, right? Mostly Apollo wants to sell tickets. He's a hype man, but he's a hype man using the bicentennial and having the fight on the 4th of July, 1976. And this is salesmanship, but it's salesmanship wrapped in the flag, and Apollo wears the trunks. He comes out dressed as Uncle Sam, and he's got the red and white striped trunks, and he gives those to Rocky in Rocky 3 so that he can wear them fighting against Mr. T, against Clubber Lang. Yeah. So those are Apollo's colors. I can't wear your colors, Apollo. Those are his. Up until Rocky 3, and then there's Rockies in the Clubber Lang fight, and then Apollo wears them again, and apparently I don't know if he dies on them against, like, that would be fucked up. Oh yes, but that's why. So Rocky's not wearing those because this is America versus the Soviet Union. His motivation is much more personal, which is why I think this movie works. Is that you know what this motivation is. You feel it, and they tell you over and over and over again what the themes of the movie are. Like it's not subtle. You know, like it's about man's ability to change.
Yeah.
And can they? But the patriotism of this movie comes from the story that Stallone has been telling about Rocky and about us as Americans since the bicentennial, which is we are a country of scrappy underdogs, right?
Yeah.
Like, given our chance, we will fight. We will fight through adversity. Like, he loses at the end of the first movie because the victory isn't important. It's the striving. It's stepping up into your moment and be unrealistic if you want. It'd be crazy.
Getting Adrian.
Right. But Adrian is such a mousy little thing in the movies. Bringing Adrian out of herself is a large part of what Rocky does. And that you see a lot of their relationship in the first 2 movies.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. Like you see a whole bunch of their dating, and it's I don't think you would enjoy the way that it ended. There's some stuff where maybe you could read it as her being pressured to be places she doesn't want to be.
Great.
Yeah, but it's.
I mean,
maybe not that terrible.
They showed all I needed to see was him taking off her glasses at one point. I went.
So yeah, there's that. Yeah. No, Adrian is like very mousy and turns into a fox. So over the course of 3 movies, 4 movies.
Like we all do.
Well, of course.
I have to explain why that makes me shake my head. Then,
no, I think you're good. I think we get there.
Exactly, I'm good.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to keep referencing the musical more than I thought I would. But how that places an interesting conundrum for composers and lyricists then, because like if you have obviously mousy characters exist in the musical world, but then how do you take that character? I mean, is she always having to sing on her own? I mean, there is a big breakup song that she has at one point, and I'm like, well, that must be the one time she gets to sing with him in the room, because otherwise the way you're describing her, like as a director, I don't think I could have her singing with anyone else in the room if she's this mousy.
Not at the beginning.
Yeah.
No, for the first movie, you wouldn't. She barely talks. Like she's very shy.
Hashtag being a woman in a 70s and 80s film.
Yeah, and in Rocky 3, she has like the big monologue, where she yells at him,
Nice.
and like shakes him out of his, out of the stupor he's in, because he doesn't believe in it. I don't believe in myself no more. When a fighter doesn't believe in himself, that's it. That's not it. So yeah, she yells at him a lot, and like that's where Adrian becomes more of a forceful character. And in this movie, she's relegated again. She's relegated to you can't win. You
can't win.
Yeah.
I wrote that down, like women in sports movies.
And Adrian is the woman in sports movies. She's pushed to the side here because she's not needed for the story arc. For Rocky.
Nicer way to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, she comes back, and Adrian always helps Rocky. Just by being there emotionally, she inspires him. Like that's
what we do.
Yeah.
Stand by our man.
Well, she does. But it's like, so I like that this thing gets the trappings of patriotism without it having any actual patriotic messaging behind it. Like, there's no "we're better than them" messaging in this movie. There's the Soviet Union is cheating in athletics, which was a widely held belief, largely because it's true in that time period. And now, let's be real. So, like, that was the thing, but but otherwise, like, Drago is too modern, which is like, like we've been competing with the Soviet Union in athletics and science and proxy wars around the globe since the end of World War II. So it was always a one-upsmanship, more and more technological. And then finally Rocky goes, I don't think I can beat him like that. I have to strip it all back down. I have to become wilderness man.
I have to get this out of nowhere Airbnb with all the trappings of, just regular, good old-fashioned working out. I pull stuff, I lift people in wagons, I do the things that, how we used to work out before it was
run up goddamn mountains.
Okay. It's just such a weird thing. This is such a weird thing to know, but it speaks to what was available in the clothing market at the time, because when they first get there, I'm like, those winter jackets are not enough.
Right.
But then later
it's
on,
a nice jacket though.
It's a nice jacket. I'd wear it. But then he's out there running in it, and my mom's voice came in my head like, "No, you're gonna ruin that jacket. Working on buddy, this is the wrong jacket." But then also, like, as me, I don't know if this is just my thing or if it's like a costumer side of my brain, but as I'm watching it, I'm like, these are not workout clothes. Like, how can you, how do I know these boots are good for you to be running in? Like,
yep.
But at the same time, workout clothing was not a thing. It was old clothes that you tore up And also, he's in some extreme elements. He's gonna have to just work out and whatever, but like that Airbnb didn't look like it had a washer and dryer, so
They're not even in the antennas.
he's fucking
How's
Paulie.
Paul going to watch his TV shows? Going to mess with his sinuses, for God's sake.
Okay, that's definitely like a concern for my parents when they go to my sister's, but that's a whole other story.
Well, I mean, no, it's a concern for everyone everywhere. That's what I think. You
Well,
have to
my
watch
solution
stories.
is books or your laptop.
Yep, there you go. But, they didn't even have Wi-Fi in 1985 Russia. So that was isolating, but that's what Rocky needed. He needed to get deep inside so that he could overcome. And that's what we do.
His way of healing, I'm like, yeah, I would want to do the same thing after losing my best friend. I would just want to go to like Siberia somewhere and
Sure.
Shovel snow.
And that's what he does. He goes deep inside to the cold parts and has to heat them up again.
Yeah.
And so because the character's motivations are completely personal, the global part of the story works. And because it was late 80s America, the desire to wrap yourself in a flag was immense. It's fucking ridiculous.
Even though that's
well, yeah, Rocky did it.
But no one cares. No one cares that putting the flag on stuff is actually illegal.
No, it's against the flag code. But we can. We can. So, and I think that personal journey is that's the core of the movie. And it's what Rocky says in his monologue at the end. But he talks about it throughout the movie. When Apollo comes to him and is like, I got to do this. I got to fight this Russian for fucking whatever reason, like to defend America. And that's the other thing. Rocky IV says acts of patriotism built on the idea that you just have to beat the other country are stupid.
Yeah.
Because they got Apollo killed. Like, there was no reason for Apollo to die here. He died for a silly belief that has to do with man-made boundaries. And there was no need for that, but he did it. And
masculinity kills again.
But it's more than that. It's toxic patriotism.
That too.
But that's what Stallone says in the movie. He's like, he kills the guy who thinks like that.
Yeah.
Even though he loves that guy, he kills him. But when Apollo comes over and is talking through his, like why he's got to do it, and Rocky's like, look at that, Apollo, that ain't us no more. We can't do that. And, you got to change your way of thinking. And Apollo rejects that entirely. He's like, he can't change. I can't change who I am. I'm a fighter. And he dies. And Adrian yells at Rocky that he has to change. And he said, you can't change who you are. And he is like, he can't change. And so he goes to Russia. And then in the middle of this fight, I can change, you can change, everybody can change. Right? That's what this is. And if I can change and you can change, then this Cold War can end. And in this ring, you saw two people killing each other. But I guess that's better than 20 million. And so this movie is about man's ability to change.
Yeah.
And that's such a fundamental story. And that's why Rocky is great.
It should be the American story. Like,
that's what he's saying it is.
Not anymore.
I mean, that's I know, but that's what Rocky is about. Like, Rocky is about.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the story. Like, it starts in the bicentennial with, giving the underdog a chance. And not coincidentally, the champion is a black man. And so like there's all of these things that they, like, and they do ask, they were like, what does it signify that you're fighting a white man on July 4th? And Apollo's answer is like, what does it signify that he's fighting a black man? Like, like they address it and go, you figure it out.
Yeah, like I was thinking about that with regards to this film, because it's like the layers are of course there. It doesn't mean that they're the main layer.
Which aren't the main layer?
I mean, because of course I'm thinking about the fact that like this black man sacrificed himself. I mean, not for America, although it sort of feels that way, because part of me is like, why? I mean, I don't want to begrudge anyone their patriotism. Like, if that's what motivates you or gives you an ounce of joy, then like, far be it for me to take from you. But of course, like you said, it's toxic patriotism, and that is what kills him. So I don't know. Again, I don't think I can speak to the layers that I see in this movie that again aren't the main thing. But I feel like what you were just saying too, like they address it in the first one. It's not the main thing, It's
not, yeah. And
I'm gonna take that as Sylvester Stallone knowing his lane and staying in it.
Maybe. I think it's more he knows the story he wants to tell about the character and about America. Like, this is a vision of who we are as a people. It's like I've been listening to The Plot Thickens, this season of The Plot Thickens. It's a podcast from Turner Classic Movies, and it's all about John Ford this season. And so he's talking about the the America that John Ford put on screen and the stories he wanted to tell about, and they aren't who he was as a person. They were oftentimes directly the opposite of who he was as a person. But it's the story he wanted to tell about us. And that's what Stallone's doing in Rocky. And probably what he's doing in Rambo too, although I've never watched the Rambo movies. But in this, he's an underdog who he fights and then he loses. And he gets back up again in Rocky 2. And even though he doesn't want to go back in and take this punishment again, he does. And he comes out victorious. And then in Rocky 3, he is a man fat on his own success. Not literally fat because he's fucking fat. But he is super rich. He's had 10 title defenses. He's doing commercials for stuff, although he was doing commercials in Rocky 2 and he's hilariously bad at it. Which is like the point, is like all these opportunities presented themselves to him and he couldn't do any of them. Like, he wasn't built for any of those things. But he's like super rich and ready to retire, and they're celebrating and they're putting the statue on the courthouse, and he's challenged by someone who's young and up and coming and hungry. And Mickey dies and he has to overcome. Mickey was his manager in Rocky 1.
No, I learned about him from the musical.
Gotcha. Which is awesome.
I was like, oh, well, and also in the montage, they show an older guy dying, and I'm like, he's clearly the first few movies. Well, again, sometimes my brain is awesome, and
it did it.
Old man dying, hearing him yell in the musical at this Mickey character, must be Mickey.
You got it. You nailed it. Yeah. And so he's like, he has to, in Rocky 3, he has to, Apollo comes to him, he says, when we fought that first time, you had the eye of the tiger. You had this fire in you, and you don't have it anymore. And he does. And that's why he kicked your ass. You've got to get that fire back. And that's what he's trying to do in Rocky 3. In Rocky 4, he's fighting to avenge his friend's death, but also to see if he can change. Because change is easy in this movie for other people.
Yeah.
Like, Rocky's like, hey, Apollo, you should just change. Like, just you got to change your way of thinking. And Adrian shouts at Rocky that he has to change. You can't change who you are. I'm a fighter. Like that, and what he learns is that he can change.
Yeah.
And that's also America, right? He's saying we were the underdog. We overcame.
Yeah.
We got a little fat on our own successes. We felt real big about ourselves after World War II. And then then the Cold War started, and we had to start from the bottom, being scrappy again
Uh-huh.
in the moon race, like to win the space race, and all of these things. And we did it. Now can we change? Right? Now can we, as a people, evolve past this tribalism?
Yeah.
You know? Probably not. Sort of it seems like the answer, sadly. But Rocky is America. Yeah, Sylvester Stallone's vision of America. And I don't know, the fact that it doesn't end because Rocky 5 exists and it sucks. It's not any good. It's like I don't fucking with Rocky 5, whatever. But then Rocky Balboa, which is like Rocky 6, is pretty good.
Okay.
And then Rocky, which is after that, is also good. And then the Creed movies are good. Like these are good movies that tell this story of triumph over adversity.
Yeah.
And that's why these movies continue to resonate and can continue to work, and why people feel that Rocky is like, it is wrapped up in that patriotism because of the bicentennial and the Cold War thing, and he's literally wearing the American flag.
Yeah.
But that's not what he's fighting for, ever.
Yeah.
He's just fighting, and that's what it is. That's who we are. We're trying, we're striving. And that's thematically, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you put in a ring and you have people not play defense. And you montage the fuck out of it.
I think it's worth noting we're recording this the day after the 4th of July. And oh man, there was something else worth noting. I thought maybe not. I don't know. Lost it.
Yeah, but I mean there's a reason AMC ran a Rocky marathon yesterday.
Nah, that makes sense.
Like I wasn't trying to watch Rocky yesterday, but I was like, when I'm at my mom's house, I have to find something to watch that I won't hate, like local news.
Oh.
Or that like she won't hate, like most of the shows I like to watch. So it's like, what do you find? And if there's no sports, which there really isn't in the middle of July, like there's baseball games and stuff sometimes, but hot dog eating contests because America.
Gross.
But Rocky you can just put on. And so Rocky was on.
It's funny. That is not a go-to on our household because I mentioned this to my sister and I thought of all people in our family, she would have seen him, but she has not.
I don't know. Your dad seemed to enjoy it.
I'm sure this must have been the one sports movie he did not like have us watch. And it's strange to me.
Yeah.
But good. I'm glad my dad enjoyed it.
Yeah, he did. Everybody enjoys it. Okay. Talk to me about intimacy. Do. Take me back. Do.
Oh my God. We clearly have established relationships in this. So they kind of rest on the fact that this is where Stallone rested on, like, okay, if you haven't seen the other movies, I can't help you. Like,
right.
Married, we've been together, are like, it's not romantic anymore. We're just together. Anyway, so, but in the montages, we do see snippets back to that. Mm-hmm. And then, you know what? I'm just going to dive into it. And I really need to get more like concrete or organized about this. There was no love between Drago and his wife.
No, but they're Russian. They don't show.
Okay, but like,
I think that's on purpose.
Not that Russia deserves this from me, but like I don't want to perpetuate a negative stereotype about them. I have no idea like how this is how negative stereotypes get reflected in intimacy, and we kind of have to stop that because you see it in other cultures or in how we portray other cultures intimately as well too. Like
Right.
and
The Russians are a cold people. We know this because that's the stereotype.
because it's freezing cold there. It's like, well, maybe they're not. Maybe I mean, it can certainly be part of the story that I mean, also he's not real, so maybe she has no love for him because he's not real.
Right.
I just find it interesting that we even bothered writing in that they're husband and wife and letting this Russian woman be the woman who gets to talk the most.
Uh-huh.
Because
So
I'm an American woman, I'm thinking this makes it look like I have more rights over there, and now I'm thinking about going to Russia.
You
don't.
I think that's because she and Stallone were dating.
What?
Let me see the timeline on that. But yes, no, Stallone and Brigitte Nielsen were together.
Wow.
All right.
Not thrilled with that.
All right. She began her acting career in the fantasy film Red Sonja with Arnold. That same year, she married Stallone. The couple acted in 2 films together, Rocky IV and Cobra, before divorcing in 1987. So, yeah. That's part of what that is.
Well, I have nothing nice to say about that.
I don't know. It gives us Brigitte Nielsen, though. Like, I don't like
it.
She's Red Sonja. She's Drago's wife. She's the bad guy in Beverly Hills Cop 2. Like, you know, she did some stuff.
She's taking away work from brunettes and women. So
she's just iconic of the era. But I think it is. You're right. It's weird that she gets all the dialogue, but then Drago doesn't have to speak, and he can just be a machine.
Which that also made it look like, okay, this man is just a beefcake and can box, and that's the only reason we gave him this, and this is why I'm fucking sick and tired of this business because of this stupid bullshit that happens.
Mm-hmm. Because Dolph Lundgren is a fucking genius, but like nobody knows that because he's Drago. You know, like people know it because it's a thing that is known, but it's like it was one of those things that everyone learned 25 years after the movie came out. You're like, he's what? Like, I just thought he was. If he dies, he dies.
Jesus.
I know.
Like, they gave him just enough to say.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It works because he's menacing.
Like, yeah. At one point, when he's got all the blood in his mouth, he looks like Jaws from The Spy Who Loved Me, and I went, oh my god, they're totally related.
Yeah. Rosie's blood! Rosie's blood! And it's a... What do you mean?
So, again, back to the intimacy. It's not great, but I'm gonna leave that as Stallone staying in his lane and not knowing what he's talking about, or just not liking the actress playing Adrian. They do have a beautiful moment when she comes to Russia and is like, I'm gonna be here for you. We finally see them, like, we see why they're in love again. Or we see a hint at why they used to be in love. Again, I don't know, because clearly how this relationship is written is weird, and I'm not going to like it. And I'm just going to save myself the time. But I at least liked that moment. They have a comfort with each other as actors that I think translates well as, like, a couple who has been together a long time. Like, if there were touches in passing, they were so slight I didn't notice, so I would have liked a bit more of that, because it kind of feels like they're in that cliched rut that they show couples in. Not to say that it doesn't happen, but it just, I don't like how it's shown on film anymore. What I did like intimacy wise was I thought it was really sweet the relationship he has with his son. You know,
Mm.
he's not he's not doing the machismo thing of like, yeah, you're gonna be a fighter like your father.
Right.
Like, no, get away from me, kid. We don't hug, we don't love, like, blah, no, what he
Mhm.
doesn't do the I think the character's name is Troy in Fences, and I don't know if you've seen it, but he has this whole speech. Oh, it's so great. But the son at one point asks his dad, like, do you like me? And he goes, why do you think I have to like you? I feed you, I clothe you. Like, there's nothing in the book that said I have to like you. And I'm not doing it justice, everyone. Just go watch Denzel Washington do this.
Mm.
But we don't get that here. And
Mm.
I love that. I love that he
Yeah.
is so willingly, like, loving to his son.
Mhm.
I think he gives him a kiss on the cheek or on the head. Like he doesn't just tousle his hair. Like there is a relationship, and
Mhm.
it's sweet. And was not expecting that.
Yeah. What did you think about the intimacy between Paulie and his robot? That robot's the greatest thing. That robot's the greatest thing that's ever been in movies.
No, I said Rocky wants to give robots our jobs. So had Rocky not been so great of a friend and father, that robot could have destroyed my impression of him. Because I was like, oh, you're giving him a robot now, huh? Taking away jobs for humans. Fuck you, man. Let's see a robot do your job. Oh, wait. Drago's right over there.
That's right. I don't know. I love the fact that that robot clearly learns, like, and changes personality and falls in love with Paulie. It's very funny. It's such a weird little thing that they put in there.
Yeah.
But I have a friend named Paul, and on his birthday, I like to send him the gif of "Happy Birthday, Paulie."
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm not the only one. It's an easy joke to make, but it makes me happy.
That also is kind of like a funny way to make fun of Americans in that, like, here we've got Russia with all the technology and doing everything, doing the most with it. And then America's like, look, I made a robot.
Yeah, this is a robot that, like, it might be a sex robot. It's hard to say.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, I don't know
So,
if it's programmed for pleasure mode.
oh, going back to like Rocky and Adrian, I will say at least they had a lot of like long gazes, which is part of intimacy as well. So like
Mhm.
they did have that. It's just, I don't know. Now I feel so many mixed ways about.
How do you feel about the do like the scene in the bed with the anniversary cake and has it really been that rough? That whole scene.
I thought it could have been warmer.
Hmm.
Like they both, unless they were, which I don't think they were, but unless he was trying to show that like, oh, things are kind of stagnant right now, it looks kind of stale. It looks kind of like we're in this comfortable life. Not really worried about, showing love to my partner. Maybe I'm not really feeling it right now. Like I don't know. It had all the things to be cute. It just was.
I wonder if
stale.
your opinion of that would change if you had seen the progression of their relationship.
Maybe.
Because the way they start out is he's very interested in her, and she
Mhm.
is so shy and reserved that, like, he comes into the pet store she works in and makes a cheesy joke every day. Like
That's why he talks to folks.
yeah, like he's always he comes in and he's like he tells a bad joke and tries to get her to laugh, tries to get her to smile. She doesn't really, like she's too reserved to engage in that, but he keeps trying.
Okay.
And he gets her to go out on a date with him, and he takes her ice skating, even though he doesn't skate. So he's like, she's skating because it's what she likes to do. and he buys 10 minutes of ice time after the place is closed, and it's very cute.
Yeah.
And he's running along beside her without skates on. And like, so the relationship is this, like, it's him trying to bring her out, but
Yeah.
also him being like a big lump, like not, but sweet. Like,
Yeah.
but then he takes her back to his place and she's like, I don't want to come inside. He's like, come inside, and she's like, no, I want to go home. And she says, I want to go home like 4 times. And then she finally goes inside. And, he immediately like takes off his shirt because it's hot in there. And, he introduces her to his 2 turtles, which she sold him, Cuff and Link. Which, like, at least as of a few years ago, Stallone still has Cuff and Link. He still has both those turtles.
Oh my God.
50 years ago, these turtles.
Yeah.
And so he still has Cuff and Link. At least he did a few years ago. And so like they bring things out of each other in their interactions. And there's a whole she goes into a coma after childbirth in Rocky 2, and I hate that part of the story. Like, it just, I don't. And that's, he's motivated to fight when she wakes up and says, "Win." Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then in the 3rd movie, she screams at him on the beach because he's just in his own ass. And, like, their relationship evolves over time. So I'm wondering if, seen in the light of that evolution of and knowing that the original part of it for them was her being so shy and reserved.
Yeah.
And him being such a big clumsy lout, but like good-hearted and kind, and like Paulie was an asshole, and Rocky was never that.
Okay.
Like, Rocky's never not been a good guy in these movies.
Okay.
Which is pretty amazing. Like, to have a character that, but also just from a storytelling, like, wrestlers like Hulk Hogan, who is in Rocky 3, Thunder Lips, the ultimate male in the flesh, baby. Hogan was the ultimate babyface, right? Like, the ultimate good guy. He was "I'm a Real American" was his theme song. And Hogan was on top from 85 to 90, basically, like the champion all this time. And a white meat babyface the whole time. Even though the way he acted, like, he wrestled like a heel, but he was a babyface.
Yeah.
And people got bored. People got tired of the same Hogan story, which is big guy, something that Hogan has to overcome. During the match, he's taken to the ground, and then he feeds off the audience, and he hulks up, and the guy tries to punch him, and he blocks it, and he goes, "Oh," and he waves, and then Hogan comes back, and he throws him off the ropes, and he gives him the big boot, and then the leg drop, and 1, 2, 3, America wins.
Wow.
People get tired of Hogan being a good guy. And so eventually, in the mid-90s, Hogan turns heel, which is like the biggest thing that ever happened in wrestling, that this good guy turned into a bad guy, but he had to because everybody was tired of it.
Yeah.
Never happens with Rocky. Rocky never turns heel because people are sick of Rocky being a good guy. He stays being a good guy, which is pretty impressive.
I mean, I feel like there's enough time between stories for people to not get tired, and that could be why he's a good guy. All that to say, going back to it, I still feel like there's a way, again, if you'd had people go in, or if you'd had even the director just create a discussion between the two to be like, how can we make this look like you all are really in a relationship? Because it just felt, again, like, it can be the littlest things, or just to have a few more like habitual touches, something. Because it felt, it was cold before he even got to Russia.
Yeah.
And that creates a subplot that isn't actually there.
Right. Yeah. That's
you
interesting.
know? So again, why these little intimacies matter, and if you don't want it to be touch, it doesn't have to be. It can be like, okay, well then she's never really looking at him or something, or like purposefully like positioning herself away from him more in the bed when he brings the cake into bed, which I would be annoyed at. Like, really, this is a nice
Everyone. Right. I do the one thing I wonder about with Adrian in this movie is, like, I feel like there should be more worry.
Yeah.
And I don't ever get the worry from her that you would think you would get after watching Apollo die.
Yeah.
You know? Like, Mrs. Apollo just experienced this. I don't even know what her name is, Mrs. Apollo. But
Yeah. Mrs. Apollo. I love that.
not for nothing, but she's pregnant here when Drago kills him.
What?
How else do we get the movie Creed?
Well, I figured they already had a kid.
I mean, maybe
I wondered about that.
I don't remember, but I don't think they didn't have a kid in the movie. You never saw one. You know?
Wow. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it was a lot. But this is like, and they bring these stories back in the Creed movies, because I don't think I've seen Creed 3, but Creed 2, like, he fights. I think there's 3. But he fights Drago's kid. Yeah. Yeah.
They must have taken sperm from him. Yeah. They created this robot that can create its own sperm. Man, Russia can do everything.
No, robot sperm.
Because he's not real.
Hashtag robot sperm. New trending topic.
My last question, because I finally had a question from Intimacy Corner. Or Adventures in Intimacy. Hugging someone sweaty, deal or no deal?
Oh, I've hugged a lot of sweaty people. You do that in sports constantly.
Ugh.
Yeah, you do it constantly. It's hugging someone sweaty is not as. I'm gonna let you finish taking that sip before I say this, so that you don't spit it out.
Oh no.
Was not expecting this, but when I was a freshman in college, I would play a lot of pickup games, and this was when I was at the University of Indianapolis, and which is it's a religious based school, like it's a private school with like a Methodist underpinning or whatever, and so there's like a chaplain, so there's also a Catholic priest, Father Don maybe was his name, I don't remember, but he played basketball.
Okay.
And so he would play these pickup games all the time. And he was, I don't know, 5'9", 5'10", something like that. A little bit round, quite hirsute, and often shirtless. And so the number of times I had to guard this hairy, sweaty man in the post. I mean, it was so much sweat. Like, you knew no one wanted to guard him because it was just going to be gross. So, yeah, that's my sweat story.
Wow. Okay, well, not as bad as I was like, oh no, I might.
I don't know. It's a wet, hairy priest. Like, I just didn't think you would. You know, I felt like maybe you would be grossed out by that as a concept.
I don't know. Again, it's just something this is probably. I don't know how I would deal with this as an actor. If I'm doing something where I need to hug someone, I mean, I've seen how sweaty guys get on stage. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't envy dudes and how you all sweat. Like, I get sweaty, but my God, like, you all just exist and are like.
Yep, ring me out.
It's awful. So I feel like as an actor, if I had to hug someone that I am like, they're my love interest and they're completely drenched, that's definitely, I'm going to have a moment afterwards where I'm like, towel me off, please wash my face. Cause like, I'm just that much of a germaphobe. I can't, like, of course I've hugged sweaty people but like, it's so much different if it's someone you're having to play opposite. Like, that would be a thing for me where I'm like, I need you to immediately hand me a towel. Or you need to have
Right.
me looking away so I can put my hand between my face and your drenched chest.
It reminds me, yesterday we're watching this, and it's before the Apollo Drago fight. They're out there, and Liam goes, "Why are they so sweaty? They haven't done anything yet."
Okay, I thought that too. I was like, they're sweating and nothing has happened yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for the camera. It glistens. It's either sweat or oil. You oil yourself up so that the lights reflect and show the muscles. And
Okay. I have a question about
yeah,
filming from that era because
Hmm.
there is a near constant haze. Is that because people were still smoking on set? Or did they just do that for lighting? Because I know we do that in theater a lot for lighting,
Mhm.
but it looks strange on camera.
I don't know that I noticed it. I don't know.
There is an odd haze in
Hmm.
various scenes in this film. And again, I don't know if it's because it's done in theater all the time because it makes the lights look cooler.
Now, does this haze to you look like possibly the inside of a cataract? Because it may just
I
be
know.
you.
No, it's I'm just
You
saying,
may just have cataracts and need to see an eye doctor.
don't give me more health problems. I was already told I have big eye nerves, and I'm like, of course I do.
Yeah.
Dense breasts, big eye nerves. What else?
Your doctors
Anyway.
are flirting with you hard.
No,
It's the best they got.
I guess.
You have such big eye nerves.
I snorted. I was like, of course I do.
The better to see you with, my dear.
Oh my god. But no, there's definitely haze, and my other theory was just people were still smoking on set and they just didn't think
Possible.
it.
I mean, in Rocky Apollo and Rocky 1, it is very smoky. But that would be the stadium itself would have been smoky.
Yeah.
Being indoors in an arena in 1976 would have been very smoky. Probably the same 1985 in Russia. There weren't anti-smoking indoor smoking laws.
Well, were they
Anywhere.
already in
Not
America?
really. No, not in the 80s. Nope. Not until the late 90s, 2000. Yeah.
I feel like my childhood was. I mean, I know I grew up hearing at restaurants, "Oh, would you all like the smoking or non-smoking section?" Smoking, please.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was in high school when they started being like, "Yeah, there's always going to be non-smoking. Just don't do it inside." It's like, oh,
Right.
okay. Well, bowling alleys will never smell the same.
Right. Or me coming home from a bar.
Honestly, smoke can only help the smell of bowling alleys. Like,
It's true.
I
I
don't
love
know.
a bowling alley, though.
Me too. And maybe it's because my dad smoked. I mean, not when I was alive, but still, I think I just was born into this world not to be bothered by smoke.
Mm,
Doesn't mean I want people smoking around me, because obviously it's bad for you.
yeah. I don't enjoy it. It's not my jam.
Walter doesn't either. So it's just one of those things I am more alert about now, because if other people are smoking around us, which again in New York people do, it's like, oh no, protect.
Right. Yeah. We were outside walking, and someone walked past smoking a cigarette, and Liam's like, "What is that smell?" And I'm like he knows what weed smells like, because you smell that everywhere, But cigarette smoke, you don't smell that much. So it was pretty new for him. So he's like, "What is that?" I was like, "Oh, that person's smoking a cigarette." And he's like, "Oh, all right."
See, and at least with weed, you don't have to feel as bad about deeply inhaling, because you're like, oh man, maybe secondhand.
Right. Exactly.
Whereas
Which is exactly what I want the 13-year-old to be doing. Yeah, that's the move.
See, secondhand. I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a parent.
Any more intimacy?
No, I think I talked that to death as usual.
All right, so I think the needle drop forest here exists in the middle of a montage, because this movie, I'm going to Google this real quick because I feel like I've seen this stat. Okay. When you type what percentage of Rocky, the first autocomplete suggestion is what percentage of Rocky 4 is montage.
Nice.
Uh,
50%.
it's like 1/3 is what I've seen. Okay, so here we go. Total montage time 29 minutes and 10 seconds. Total movie running time 91 minutes and 20 seconds.
Wow.
This movie is so montage. And it shouldn't work because it leans too heavily on it. It really does. Like the montage, the first one where he's like one, it starts with the montage, right? It starts with the Eye of the Tiger Rocky 3 montage.
Uh-huh.
And then you get the after Apollo, well, then you get, it's not really a montage, it's a live music performance of Living in America, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Like that James Brown scene is great. I
It's
want
nuts.
all of it mainlined into me all of the time. That
Wow.
is
Okay.
America. I love that. I also like songs where they say the names of cities so that when they go play in those cities, the people cheer. Like, I like The Heart of Rock and Roll by Huey Lewis, where he's just like, Detroit! It's just, yeah, it's great. It's the oldest trick in the book, and I love it.
Yes.
And so that you've got that, and then you've got the driving montage, which gives you all the backstory you never had.
Yes.
Right? Like you see all of these images of all of the things, and it shows you this relationship and why this is hitting him. And you see the guilt in the montage of him not throwing the towel.
Yeah.
And, all of this stuff. And then the montages are, then it's like, oh, here's a press conference and training montage. And Adrian shows up, a little bit of a pep talk, big time training montage. End of the movie, and this is how Rocky movie fights work, except for Rocky 3. They show you the first 2 rounds, montage through the rest of the fight, show you the 15th round. Like that's, but you get all of these things, you get the progressions, and you understand the character movement and the motivation, and like when he's down and when he's coming back, and like it's the most masterful montaginess in the history of cinema, and it's fully 1/3 of the movie.
Yeah, and yet somehow it works because again, No, I'm not going to say that writing is not his strong suit because clearly the man is a storyteller.
Yeah.
I think
these movies are good.
I think if you wanted to flesh it out anymore, it takes away from the Rocky of it all. Like,
yeah,
he is supposed to be the focus,
Mm-hmm. And it
I don't even know if
it moves better.
Yeah, and I don't know that a more fleshed out telling of this would make it more interesting.
Right. I think like Rocky 2, it feels slow to me because there's no one, like Rocky 3 has a ton of fights. Like there's a whole montage at the beginning where he's beating all of these contenders. There's a charity fight with him versus Hulk Hogan. Boxer versus wrestler, which is great. And then there's the Clubber Lang fight 1 and 2. So there's all these fights. And Rocky 4 has 2 fights, right? It has the Apollo Drago fight and it has the Rocky Drago fight. But the rest of it zips right along. Rocky 2 is a slog because there's only one fight. It's at the end, and there's all this emotional stuff, all this talking that happens for the first, hour and a half of the movie. And it's a good movie, but it doesn't work as well as the other ones.
And I wonder if they were trying to let's appeal to the women and add in a love story in this. And it's like, again, stay in your lane. Like, I don't think writing a love story is for you or your comfort zone. So, keep it about the fighting. Keep it about, you know, boxing life. Like
Right.
you also maybe find another way to appeal to the women. Like love is not the most interesting thing that we experience. You know?
Sweatiness is.
Oh God.
I just had this thought. I think I think the fact that the Rocky movies are this good makes Cliffhanger worse.
Oh yeah.
Because you know what he's capable of from a storytelling standpoint, and like that you can do it in all these different ways. And Cliffhanger is just a turd. Like the strafes on Cliffhanger here at the end of Rocky IV, but
Unnecessary hauntings in my brain now.
yeah, sorry.
All because of a glove. It's fine. I just hope all of our listeners can appreciate what I've gone through.
Speaking about gloves, what about the gloves at the beginning of the movie?
God. I was like, they are hitting it hard straight out the gate.
They really are. Is it East versus West or man against man? Can any nation stand alone?
It's always East versus West.
In the burning heart, just about to burst. I don't know. Montages are fucking awesome.
They're great. I'm eager for the one I've been living in for the past 10 years to be over.
Are you familiar with the montage song from Team America World Police?
No, I'm not.
Oh, it's great. It is a montage song that in its lyrics and execution performs a montage song and explains a montage song at the same time. Yeah. Always fade out on a montage. It's wonderful.
There were that juxtaposes nicely because there were a lot of freeze frames at the end of scenes, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
Yep, freeze and frame, baby. You got to know. The montage is over. It's time to go on to the next scene.
No, it's not even just after a montage. They would just like scene's done. Is a sitcom done? Like,
yeah.
And yet this still is the throwiest thing we've watched.
No. Before we get into the ESTs of it all, though, that sounds like a what else time you just had there. What else you got?
Oh, man. I don't know. Well, yeah, I mean, the freeze frame ending of so many scenes. More so, I feel like in the beginning, it just kind of felt like, we don't know how else to end this.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In some ways, this movie was meant to be sliced up and put on MTV. You know?
Yeah.
Here's your music video. Like that, the No Easy Way Out montage is a fucking music video. And so are the training scenes. You know? Yeah.
You mentioned earlier how this ignites. I wanted you to sing.
I wanted to sing in the background underneath what you were saying, so that like whatever you were saying, I'd like, no, it's okay. It just it just feels like it needs to be uplifted by some power chords.
I'm a spoiled actor. I need to know what everyone is going to do. Hashtag I'm not a spoiled actor. This is a logical thing to want, but I have to know what everyone is going to be doing before we do it.
I never know what I'm going to be doing literally the second before I start doing it.
Well, you would have a great time with some method actors out there.
No. Anyway, sorry, you were talking and I was singing Hearts on Fire.
Okay. But when you mentioned that Rocky ignites the same part of your brain that 90210 does, I feel like that part of my brain is ignited by musicals because people love to shit on musicals like they're terrible, but quite frankly, that's the world I want to live in. I love the ridiculous nature of musicals. They're great. I love that we have so many genres of musicals now. And they can be done seriously. And yet at the same time, even when they're serious, they can be laughable and ridiculous because but I don't find them ridiculous.
Right.
Unless they're meant to be. You know, things like Mamma Mia, that's absolutely ridiculous, and it's a fun night in the theater.
Sure.
You know, there's
It's supposed to be like,
a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. So ridiculous. Avenue Q, completely ridiculous and so much fun. Like, so yeah, I think Rocky as a musical is the only way I can take this.
didn't know that.
We'll watch them at some point. Maybe not. I don't know. No, I'm not excited by the beginning of it all.
If you don't think that there's a reason for us to watch all 4 Rocky movies, again, we're ignoring 5. We're gonna find it. Like, we have to, because we've got Carl Weathers is in the first 4. Like, we're connected.
Well, then I'm just gonna keep up the hilarity of me having to watch them in odd order.
Whatever random order.
Because again, just from what you've told me, I have no interest in feeling the angst that I'm like having that exacerbated,
Mm-hmm.
the angst over the Adrian and Rocky of it all.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure to some people it's the love story of their dreams, and for you,
I doubt it.
I hope not. You deserve better.
Yeah.
Not to say that Rocky isn't a good guy. I just think, again, it's unhealthy stereotypes being perpetuated that we are having to take a long time to undo because we think everything on film is real. We think this is a real encapsulation of life.
Yeah. Here's an EST thing that I had, and I had a couple, but I'm going to just drop one of them because we're running long anyway. And,
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting, especially because you think that the Cold War ended in 1959, to talk about the power of sports and the role it played in the Cold War. Because we had, like I said, we had the space race, which is science fights. But when you got to the Olympics, there was a lot of using that as a stage to not only sort of peacefully coexist with, our world's only rival, basically, at the time, but it was a way to fight without fighting.
Yeah.
And that's why, the miracle on ice in the 1980 Olympics, when we defeated the Soviet Union in the Olympics, is such a big deal. Like, it carries this weight, this import, because we're fighting here instead of there. Right. And then we boycott the 1980 Olympics, and they boycott the 1984 Olympics.
Oh.
So, from the Summer Olympics. So we don't square off against Russia and the Soviet Union until Rocky V comes out. Like, 2 Olympic cycles, no competition between these 2 superpowers. And part of what Stallone is doing here is, 2 guys killing each other is better than 20 million.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be better to just battle it out in the arena of sport? And instead of maybe blowing us all up.
Yeah.
Of course I'd like to say hello, Dimitri. You're fine, and we're all fine.
Yeah, it would be better that way. That's an even better idea than, my thinking of, like, maybe if we were allowed to duel again, things would be. Oh. But no, let's keep it in the ring. Let's.
Maybe what if we did this? What if we went?
Da-na-na.
Duel.
Hey, I would be great at those fights.
I know, dance fights are the best. All right, what is this the ESTF for you?
This is the most patriotic of sports films that I've ever seen.
Have you seen Miracle? Miracle's pretty patriotic.
I know, and I've had it described to me. Ashley has seen it. I remember seeing adverts for the movie or
Mhm.
trailers for it. So, and I might like it because I like hockey.
It's a decent movie. It's not as good as Rocky Four.
It's
Nothing is.
it's
That's
either
not
this
true.
is either the most patriotic or the sweatiest.
It's very sweaty.
It's very sweaty. I mean, again,
Yeah.
to quote Liam, they're not even doing anything.
Yeah. Cool
But
Hand Luke is very sweaty, which you would enjoy because it's got your boy in it.
no,
Um, but it's sweaty for a reason.
what we have here is a failure to communicate.
Taking it off here, boss. Yeah, take it off there, Luke. I want people to talk like that all the time. Well, this is again, as I said earlier, the Lesliest way to talk about this movie because it involved musical theater,
It
which
did.
is kind of amazing.
You're welcome. I knew
Yeah,
you.
no, I appreciate it. This is the stakesiest sports movie. Like
Yeah.
this one dude ends the Cold War. I mean, that's some pretty big stakes. And it make like the whole thing is wrapped in the flag in such a weird way.
Uh-huh.
But it works again because that's not why he's doing it.
Yeah.
You know, like if Rocky was trying to end the Cold War by boxing, that would be real fucking stupid.
See, and in my
Yeah.
dark brain, as people are starting to cheer for him, I thought, oh, they're about to get taken out and killed. But then
I don't think
he's doing it, and I went, oh,
right.
they might.
Even Gorbachev Light was doing it.
See, and of course, I don't even know who that person is because U.S. history never discusses
You don't know
anything
who
after World
Gorbachev
War
is?
II. No, I don't.
Wow.
We never. Yeah, no. I mean, listen. We all know U.S. history failed in the educational system, but like, one of my biggest fist. One of the things that upset me the most is that we never got past World War II, and yet on the APO's history exam, we had to study everything after it. And I remember
Right.
my classmates all like trying to get all this information. I still don't quite understand Bay of Pigs because guess what? I didn't have a teacher explaining it to me. But even so, like there's so much about post World War II America that is fascinating to me and that I would love to know more about because clearly it has had such an impact that it's part of why we're where we are today.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the good thing for you is all of it was recorded.
Yes.
Like it's easy to go back and find these things and watch them and listen to them, and you know, you've got all of it. It's just a matter of like where to start and what's interesting and how to dig in and all of that stuff.
How to figure out what's propaganda and what's not.
Everything's propaganda. This movie's propaganda.
Damn.
I mean, it starts with the fucking fists, and then everybody wears American flag pants, and James Brown sings "Living in America," and I mean, this movie is that,
Yeah.
and that would bug the shit out of me if it wasn't based in personal character,
Yeah.
moments, like and motivations. Like
Yeah.
Rocky doesn't give two shits about America versus the Soviet Union. He does not care.
He cares about people.
He cares about Apollo, and he cares about, you know, avenging his death and his own culpability in that death. Like that's an awesome story. It's
Yeah.
told with a lot of fucking montages and a great deal of literally wrapping yourself in the American flag. But it's a much better story than the fourth Rocky movie where he beats communism has any right to be.
Yeah. And now I
You know?
understand it.
Yeah. So I think what we've done here is once again proven my theory that everything comes back to Aaron Spelling,
Indeed.
even Rocky IV. Next week, we are going to be in conjunction with season 2, episode 21. Everyone's talking about Sexperts Going Home. we're going to watch a teenage sex romp called American Pie. Ever heard of it?
Yeah,
So it's a totally different vision of America, the American Pie, than Rocky IV. I don't know. There's more boobs in that one. We didn't talk about boobs at all this episode. This is real weird for us.
I know.
Even though there's man nipple all over this movie.
Man nipple all over, like dude's boobs bigger than the women's. Upsetting.
All right, well, until then, cheese meisters. Cheers.